The Tax Amendment Bill of 2020, which was passed in the National Assembly, will allow the reduction of over 100 license fees by 50% of the previously increased amount. The fees were increased under the APNU AFC coalition administration, causing undue strain on citizens.
The fees in the bill, Mr. Speaker, are over 100 in number, and they are outlined in the bill. And Mr. Speaker, whatever was the increase, we are reducing it by 50%. So if you go through the bill, Mr. Speaker, clause by clause, section 4.2, we are going to be substituting the words 50,000 of the words 35,000. In section 6.2, we're going to be substituting the words 30,000 with the words 21,600. Because whatever was the increase that was added on, we are reducing it by 50% of that increase. Section 8.3, where the words 3 million is going to be substituted now with 2,500,000 reductions. Section 9.2, where the words 3 million for the words 2,500,000. Section 17.2, by the substitution for the word 100,000 of the word 70,000. And every time I read a section, Mr. Speaker, you're discussing money going back to the ordinary man and people having money in their hands to look after themselves. Mr. Speaker, in section 18.1, the numbers are there, and the reductions are being made in keeping with the 50% formula of reduction. In section 19, we're substituting for the words 400,000 and 200,000 with the words 3,200. Sorry, substitution for the words 4,000 and 2,000. We're substituting them with the words 3,200 and 1,600 respectively. Again, reflecting significant increases. Section 20 continues with the same manner of reduction. Section 21, for the words 10,000, we're substituting 5,000, 50%. I'm sure Guyanese listening to this are smiling because everything is cutting in half. You know what is it to have a government, Mr. Speaker, that is reducing fees and charges? That is a government that cares about the people. That is a government that wants to see people do well. We are not a government that punish people because they make money. We create an enabling environment for them to make more money. We're not a government that sees people prospering and we think we have to get more taxes from them. We see people prospering and we create an environment for them to be able to prosper more, employ more people, so we can have more people employed and engaged. So we're taking the necessary steps. Mr. Speaker, in section 22, we are substituting the words 5,000 and 1,500 for the words 4,000 and 1,125, respectively. Significantly reducing it, sir. And like I told you in my preamble, There are more than 100 such fees that are being reduced. So this bill comprehensively, clause by clause, section by section, articulates a common position. Wherever the fees were increased during that APNU AFC era, we are now cutting and reducing that by 50% of the increase. It means that when you go to do business, whatever was the license or the fees that you had to pay under the PBPC, you are paying significantly less. And that is what your government, the PBPC government, is doing for the people of Guyana.
In my presentation during the budget period, I said that in 2014, under the last PPP government, Guyana took in tax revenues 135 billion only. As of 2019, the last year that was reported under the APNU government, just 4 short years, the APNU government brought into government coffers $226 billion and $91 billion more in revenues taken from household citizenry and brought into government coffers. Mr. Speaker, what that has done is to pauperize the Guyanese. Buying drugs to take to your family when they're sick and so, somebody getting a headache, somebody getting a bellyache. Druggist license. This bill reduces druggist license. The fees to operate a drugstore. This fee, Mr. Speaker, this bill, Mr. Speaker, reduces butcher shop license. Butcher shop license. Imagine butcher shop license is what they increased under the previous government. This bill reduces it. Mr. Speaker, I move forward. Cigarette factory. This bill reduces it. It reduces the fee to operate. It reduces it. Mr. Speaker, when you go around the city, you go around the country, men have a little cart, a little stand, they sell a little cigarette, and they ply their trade. They were increased in terms of fees over the last 5 years. This bill reduces that for them to operate. Mr. Speaker, this bill reduces the pawn shop, the broker, pawn shop brokerage license, licensed traders, money changers. The money changers, for them to carry on that trade, their fees were increased over the last 5 years. This bill cuts it by half. Mr. Speaker, I move on to craft. Anything craft that you were carrying on, you had to pay a fee. This bill reduces that. Mr. Speaker, I move on. When Jesus Christ went into Jerusalem, he went on an ass. He was carried on an ass into Jerusalem. Mr. Speaker, this bill reduced, they tax that. If that trade was carried on now, the tax, people are drawn by asses and horse cart and animals. They tax that, Mr. Speaker. This bill reduces it. Mr. Speaker, this bill reduces people who carry on trade with donkeys and mules and ponies. It reduces it. This bill seeks to reduce that. Mr. Speaker, I move on. If you carry on a ball or a dance and you have to pay a fee, a license, this bill reduces it. Mr. Speaker, this bill continues to reduce fees for person carrying on a cinema. Carrying on a cinema. If you want to take your family to the cinema, you just got to pay a license, a heavy license fee for it. This bill reduces that fee. Mr. Speaker, petrol pumps. Petrol pumps, they increase the fees on that. This bill seeks to reduce those fees. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member mentioned just now about the huckster's license. Man-propelled beasts and beasts aboard a motor huckster's license. The previous bill reduced those fees. Mr. Speaker, there's an addition to this bill here. We continue to reduce fees in auctioneer license, in rice factory with milling capacity. If you have a rice factory with milling capacity, this bill reduces the fees. Mr. Speaker, there are a long list of fees here that this bill seeks to reduce the fees. And these fees were placed on all aspects of society over the last 5 years. Every man As the honorable member said, if you're selling Balam Latcha, they try to tax you. Everything under the sun they tax. This bill, a fee imposed by a government, is similar to a tax. You can't get away from it. For you to go about doing your business to make money to take care of your family, you have to operate on a legal way. And this bill here reduces all the hardship measures of the APNU government.
This particular bill and the amendment will have its greatest effect, and the reductions will be most felt, or the beneficiaries of the reductions would be mostly in the small businesses, such as in the markets, such as the persons who have shops, such as the persons who have establishments such as butcher shops. There is where the benefit will be most felt. Mr. Speaker, we know that Guyana and the world is experiencing a pandemic. We know that the driving force of every economy in the world are the small businesses. The little neighborhood businesses provide employment, and they provide, in most cases, cheaper goods because it is usually locally sourced. Now, those persons under the last administration were made to suffer a tremendous increase in areas that are as diverse as film distribution, video distribution, betting shops. Now, in every aspect of business, the markets, within the cities, within the rural areas, in the local area authorities, all of those things, we all know that everyone who has a stall in the market, everyone who has a stall, whether it's in Georgetown, outside of Georgetown, there are fees that are attached to it because services have to be provided. But if you make those fees, Mr. Speaker, prohibitive, if you make those fees so high that for small businesses to succeed, they can't afford it, they're struggling to afford it, what you're doing, Mr. Speaker, is you're taking a viable working entity, a man who is working to support his family, and making him unable to do so. And when he is unable to do that, then you're not only affecting that one man, you're affecting an entire family, and in many cases, in the rural areas, you're affecting extended families. You're affecting employment. So, Mr. Speaker, if we could just look at some of the fees that are involved. It involves markets. It involves persons, as the learned minister said, the honorable minister said, butcher shops, pawnbroker's license, moneylender's license, bonded warehouse, even for vessels. And these are small vessels that are used to transport in the riverine areas and in a lot of the areas within the interior where transportation is easier by boat than it is on land. And those small boats that are used, whether they are used to transfer persons or cargo, they have to be licensed. These fees that were imposed made that more expensive. These fees are now being reduced by half. The licenses for vehicles. Now, the licenses for vehicles, especially vehicles that are used to trade, and that would be under Section 35 of the Act, the Principal Act itself. These, it is common in the city, it's more prevalent in the rural areas, that animals are also used to transport goods, in addition to vehicles that are used to transport goods. And what happened under the last administration is it became more expensive for the person who owned that transport to obtain a license. Now, we all know that in the rural areas, it is difficult for them to afford all of these, and even an imposition, an increase of a few $1,000s would be prohibitive in them obtaining a license. Now, they are, as the Honorable Minister Edghill said, they are more than 100 reduction in taxes contained within Bill number 8 of 2020.